Welcome back to Vintage Steel Garage, and today we're going to be replacing the front shock absorbers on the Fiat 500. I'm going to change the front shock absorbers, and the reason why is it's due its MOT in a week's time, and at the last MOT it had an advisory on saying that there's a slight misting, which means basically they're leaking a bit of oil, and it's another 12 months on. Shock absorbers aren't going to get any better. The car's done 110,000 miles or thereabouts on the original shocks, so I've not even checked. They need doing. They're not that expensive. Two of them there, delivered, £54. You can't argue with that, can you? It's a fairly simple job to do. Okay, I've cursed that now. And it's great to be back in the garage because I've not been in here for a while. And since I've not been in for a while, we had a giant spider move in. Nobody's still here. More skeletons, more tombstones. Basically, I need to claim my garage back from a Halloween party and generally just tidy it up. But in the meantime, I've got to press on with this. So let's get the car jacked up. We're doing it old school because I can't be bothered getting my quick jacks from under the truck. So we're going to jack it up, put some axle stands under, get the wheel off, do one side, move it over, do this. Okay, so this is what we're looking at. This basically constitutes the shock. So you've got the spring up at the top here. This is the actual shock absorber. What we're going to do is undo this tie-by which goes down to the anti-roll bar. Let me just show you. So what we need to do is take that nut out there to undo this drop link that goes down to the anti-roll bar, and there's two bolts here that need to come out, and then move some of these. I think this is probably detection for brakes or something like that. Just move that out of the way like that. And we've also got a brake hose and a few other little connections just here as well, so those need to come out. The brake hose, and actually I think that's the brakes. What is that? Oh, that's the ABS sensor. So the first thing we need to do is just put some penetration oil on. If anything's going to not come apart, it's going to be this here, that link. So we're just going to take, we've got that one out there which is for the ABS. Just need to take a little retaining clip here for the brake hose. Pull the brake hose out. Right, so slacken these two off. If you haven't got a long reach socket, sometimes you can get it by putting the socket on first and the square won't go all the way in. So it's a 17 one side, 15 the other. And that's coming undone on that one. This one, the brake hose is in the way, so I'm going to have to put a 17 spanner on it. Undo the bolt side. There. So there we go, that's both those bolts cracked off. Something I probably should have done really is just clean the threads up. If you clean the threads up, it stops the nuts binding up as you take them off with all the corrosion on the thread on the exposed part. So I'm just going to try and do the same on this. That looks to be a 15. No, I'll tell a lie, 17. Well, probably not even, it might even be a 16. It's a 16, they're making it awkward. Okay, so it's actually a 16. Right, this is going to be a bit tricky this, because this isn't going to want to undo. I'm going to see if I can crack it first of all with a socket. Well, I never, it's coming off. Oh no, it's not, yeah, it's spinning. Right, so you've got to get an Allen key in the middle of this. Okay, so what it's a case of now is holding this with a 16 whilst undoing There we go. So that's that out. There we go. So it's these two bolts out here, and then it's a bolt at the top in the actual engine bay itself, which I'll show you. And the strut should come out. Right, so I've got the two bolts out here. So they've come out the back. The one I need to get is up top there now, and I actually think that's going to be the awkward one. Now I just know this is going to be a pig because it all looks very corroded and it's where the water lands. I've got to put a 6mm socket in the top of this, and to be honest that looks like someone's been here before and twiddle that. That doesn't look very uniform shape. As I thought, this is proving a little bit difficult. Someone has chewed the top of this up before, so I'm going to have to get creative. This is a new one here, so it's this nut up here that I'm trying to undo. There are two nuts, so don't worry. There's one that's going to hold the cap on and the spring in place, so it's just this top one. You can see the hex there in the end, which is completely chewed up on mine. So this shaft here is going to rotate. Now this is hardened steel, so it's hard to grip, but I'm going to try and do that. That's just visible there. I'm going to see if I can try and grip it to undo it. Not had much success on this before. I might even have to grind it and make some flats on it so the grips will grip and then take it out, but I'll see how we go. Right, the luck gods must be with me. I've basically got it by having some mole grips on the shaft there, and the Allen key, the socket at the top, 19mm socket at the top, and that is undoing. So a false dawn, if you like. I was celebrated too early. The grips were gripping on the hardened shaft of the shock absorber until I got to the very end, and this is where it's flared out slightly, where someone's had an Allen key in before and stripped it, sorry, not stripped it, made it larger, which is then sort of splayed out the end of the stud. So I'm going to have to get funky and think of something else I can do. I can't put heat on it because this is rubber, so let me think. So I'm going to have to get creative and basically see if I can take some of the metal off here to get the grips, create a bit of a flat with a Dremel. I can't get the grinder in between the springs. The grinder won't fit between the springs, so I'm going to have to try it with Dremel and see if I can just take the shine off. Let's see if we can get a grip on this. Okay. Right, now then, I'm just moving my tools because there's one sure way this will work, and it's fire. fire and flame. I'm going to weld onto the strut so it creates some weld beads on it, if you like, and then the grips will grip on it and we'll get that nut out. But first, disconnect the battery. Okay, so we're going to try welding. You can't see the welder, it's there. There. So welding set's set up there. Let's see what we can do. So now we've got the strut off. Basically we've got to get the clamps on, get the nut at the top off, swap all that over to the new strut. I'm going to do it on the floor because I've got a perfectly good bench but it's full of crap. And also I've got this big scary spider still looking at me. Got to do something without that. Anyway, so what I'm going to do, I'm going to first cut off this very last bit of thread because that's the bit we struggle with, and I don't want to wreck this nut because I don't have a replacement nut in there. So I'm going to cut that off. So we need to strip the strut down now. I've cut the nut off the top, so I've got the spring compressors on. So I just need to tighten these up to compress the spring to take the load off this here. Just basically do a bit on each side. There we go, I think that's probably enough. Do this side a bit more. The spring's loose in it now, so what I need to do now is get this nut off the top here. Wow, that was tight. Right, nut, damper assembly. Rubber doofus, spring. So that's dead, and that's new. So spring goes on there. Take that off. Put that on. What actually holds that up? Oh, see that pushed into there. And then the nut goes on there like that. So the strut is rebuilt now, it's ready to go back in. Just make sure as you put it in that the spring sits at the bottom there, goes around, sits at the top. Now the other thing is, this is going to be the wheel side here. This mount actually sits to the back there, and if you look at this, sort of this ellipse here, you'll see it's not even. You'll see that it's closer to the back than the front. So if you sort of measure my finger, or let's just measure it with a socket or something, you can see that socket there is overhanging on that side, but on this side it's not. And that is to give the wheel, or the strut, a little bit of camber. And what I mean by camber is it's basically not upright, it's leaning back slightly. And when we look on the car, you'll see that elliptical shape there, like a pressing, so the nut will appear slightly further back. And that's why on this side, which hasn't come out, when you see it, this actual part here doesn't look like it's in the middle. You can see a gap at the front there, and that's just to push the strut back. So it's very important, and it'd be very easy to turn that round and put it in the wrong way around. Okay, so we're ready for the strut to go back in. As you always say in the Haynes manual, reversal of the fitting process. Let's just get a bit of this mud. Oh, that's a nice channel, isn't it? For mud to sit in. You see that? That's a channel about an inch deep that was just full of mud. Right, so that's to the back. So that's in there. That's that side. There we go. We'll just do the bottom nuts up. So to do it up, it's bolt there, 2 bolts there, bolt at the top. So it's simple, it's 4 bolts. So I've started stripping the driver's side down. I was about to say it's exactly the same as the passenger side. However, as I push this brake flex out of the location there on the strut, basically the top of it snapped off in my hand. No effort. Look at that, how corroded that is. That is scary. Okay, so not only have we got the brake pipe being a problem on this side, down there, which I've shown you, we're in a whole world of pain up here with corrosion on this one. This is a lot rustier. It's really not going to want to come off, is it? So I'm going to have to do the same again. Weld onto the actual strut down here. Get a good grip on where I've exposed it there. Weld onto that bit, get some grips on it, and see if I can get that undone. Right, I actually think this is working. I've got some weld on it down there, and that's holding it in place. And now I'm hoping this is undoing and not spinning. I think it's getting tight because it's on the very last bit now that's rusty. Come on. You know you want to come off. Note the special tool there for holding the plastic trim out of the way. Fiat special tool part number 751. No, it's still not spinning down there. Whilst that's not spinning, I'm keeping going. How long is this bloody nut? Look there. It's nearly out. Whew. Who needs a gym membership, eh? Oh, we're very near. There we go. That is very rusty. Right, let's get that bolt out, get the strut out, and get it on the bench. Well, floor. You can see that's the blobber weld I put on it, which gave me something to grip on, or else it wouldn't have gripped. It's now the repeat of the other side. I'm going to have to cut this thread off at the top again here because that's just too corroded. Swap it all out, put it on that strut, then it's ready to go back in. I have managed to recover this. I've managed to get a 17mm socket on this lower part and unscrew that from there. This is solid on the brake pipe, so I managed to rotate that off. So it's going to be interesting how I get the new one on, because that is going to have to pivot. I'm going to have to blast that with penetrating oil tonight and try and get that moving on the pipe. That's got to be able to rotate. But anyway, how scary is that this brake pipe, flexible pipe, that's the end that should be on it like that. And that should be on it together. That snap there, look at that. Day 2 on the Fiat 500. Well, it's not exactly day 2, it's the second day I'm working on it, but I probably only worked on it for a couple of hours yesterday. And I had to get some more parts. I've had to get some brake hoses. So here's the front brake hose. Does it come with a new clip for the top? No, it doesn't. New hose, so that's going to go on the driver's side. Yeah, driver's side. So that's going to go on the driver's side. And I've got some brake fluid to bleed through, which is leaked on the hood of my car. When I say hood of the car, I mean the truck, which is not good. Brake fluid is not good for paint. However, this is a patina truck, so you can't actually tell. You can't tell the car. Instructions how to fit, don't need them. Right, let's get on and get this on. The challenge I'm going to have with this is this ferrule at the end of this brake pipe won't rotate. I don't know if it's corroded on or not, so I'm going to have to screw. Normally you'd screw the ferrule into this and this stays still, but I'm going to have to screw this up into it, lock it in, put in the clip in place and hope the orientation of this is correct to then screw it in there. But I then can't screw it in here, so I'm going to have to take the brake caliper off, screw the hose in there, screw it in there. Normally you screw it in this end, push it through there and screw the ferrule down. So it's not the optimum way of doing it, but it's just what's going to have to happen. So first of all, let's get the old hose off, which looks like a 14 at this end. Which it is. So there's 2 bolts at the back here, 17mm bolts, which enable you to get the whole caliper off. So there we go, got the whole caliper off. Looks like the drum's coming off as well. Okay, I wasn't expecting that, but there you go. Caliper and drum off. Alright, so just now need to nip this up. On here. push. Oh. Just push the clip into that. Why do I have such terrible lighting in the garage always? You didn't really see me use a spanner as a hammer then, honestly, you did not. Right, now I've got to get this on here. It would be easier if the disc was off, but I can't be bothered taking it off. So we're just going to spin the whole lot. As I say, this is not the normal way for doing a brake hose. Oops. This is not the normal way for doing a brake hose at all. This is just because the bit at the top is seized solid. So I'm just going to get this right, back in a minute. This isn't working. Let me get the caliper off the disc. Right, so I've separated the disc and the caliper, which I should have done in the first place, which makes it a lot easier. So now I need to just thread this onto here. As I say, this isn't the normal way of doing it. Just in case you've tuned in at this point and think, what the heck's he doing? Just going to put these bolts in just to hold the disc on. Really, this disc should have 2 locating pins there, but once the wheel's bolted on, we're okay, so I'm not too worried about that. So there's the top back on, torqued up, give it a bit of coat of paint. What I have found actually is there's a plastic cap that goes over here, so I don't know if ours was missing or never fitted, or maybe someone's replaced the shock absorbers before, which explains why the one on the passenger side was stripped at the top. But what I'm going to do is just put a bit of copper slip on it like that, just protect it, then put that cap on there, and that's that bit done. So now we're on to the next bit of fun, which is making sure we don't snap the bleed nipple off here on the caliper. What I'm going to do to show me the best success with undoing this brake nipple is I took the rubber guard off. I'm giving it a good wide brushing, bit of a soak with penetrating oil, and then I'm going to put a socket on it to crack it off, not a ring spanner. I'm guessing it's an 8. I bet it's a 9. Let's have a look. No, it's an 8. Right, so let's just, yeah, that's okay. Right, that's operated alright. Because sometimes you can just snap these off. Right, so what I can do now is bleed it, which is the next bit of fun. I actually bought this setup for the Range Rover and it's been fantastic. What you do is you put the brake fluid in this side here, pump this up to pressurise the cylinder up. This goes on the top of the master cylinder with that quick release connection, and then that is what you use to catch the drain brake fluid. Now, what's wonderful is these now are all standard fitting. Back in the day when I was a lad, these weren't the same fitting. And what you'd find is every car had a different one, and if you had one of those easy bleeds that go onto your brake wheel, you'll find there's a multitude of caps in them. So you've just got to nip them up, not gorilla tight, but tight. And then this can be the quick release fitting on here. So I'm going to put some brake fluid in there because I've only got one hand. You can see the bubbles coming through there. Right, I'm just going to watch it going in. Right, I'm just going to knock that off. Just going to press the pedal because we didn't have the pads fully on the disc, so I'm just going to press the brake pedal. just going to open this up again. It really is the absolute best way I've seen for bleeding this. It just makes it so easy. The old up down with the wife, no, that sounded wrong, but you know what I mean. Up, down, down, up, and then before you know it, the person in the car is doing one thing with the pedal, you're doing one for the thing, you're not getting it out, it's sucking in and out the bottle. This is the way to go. I think it's about £25. Another top tip, don't get your rags muddled up. I've got one with brake fluid on, one without. Brake fluid will kill your paintwork if you don't know. So that's it really. Makes it quite simple with that sort of easy bleed. So all we need to do now is just nip the nipple up. Again, don't go bonkers with it. That's just because it's pressurised a little bit. Take that off. Put the cap back on. Give it a wipe over. And Bob's your auntie. Before you take this off up here, don't unscrew it, just press this button in here, you'll just depressurise it. And then you can undo the quick release, like that. Be careful, there's a bit of brake fluid will come out, so just have it in a cloth, like that, so you don't get it all over your car. Take that out of the way. And there we go. So all we need to do now is take this off, which I'm always going to struggle with one hand, aren't I? There we go. Take that off there like that. See where we're up to with the brake fluid. Now it does absolutely fill it to the brim, so what I tend to do is put a little pipette in here and just take a little bit out the top. That's the only drawback of it, but it has pressurised the whole system, and that's just too much fluid, so I just need to draw a little bit of that out, and then we can get on with it. Just as a final sign off, just look at this. This is the brake pipe, this is the brake hose, this is the flexible brake hose that snapped. So I'm so glad I pressed it, or touched it, because that could easily have been a brake failure while she was driving. So always check your brake lines. And that's it till next time.